This month's podcasts are sponsored by Aubergine Legal. Do you sometimes worry that your business isn't meeting all its legal compliance requirements and wonder if you're ticking all the legal boxes? Are you losing sleep worrying about a piece of legislation that you may or may not be complying with? Perhaps you need some help with your client contracts or your data protection compliance. Or maybe you're worried that your website doesn't have the right documents or legal notices in the right place. Perhaps you have a brand that you want to protect with a trademark. How about if you could outsource it all and eliminate all of your worries? If so, then get in touch with Aubergine Legal, a friendly commercial legal consultancy offering practical and clear commercial legal advice without the overwhelming legal jargon, taking the worry away and helping you to protect your business and minimise your risks. Aubergine offers a free 30-minute consultation if you have any questions or want to find out if they can help, and you can access this link and book your free 30-minute call via the link in the show notes. Welcome to the Bring Your Product Idea to Life podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're getting started selling products or if you'd like to create your own product to sell. I'm Vicky Weinberg, a product creation coach and Amazon expert. Every week, I share friendly, practical advice as well as inspirational stories from small businesses. Let's get started. Hello, so I have a great episode for you today with Rosie Prosser from Corseside Nursery. So the nursery is an RHS gold medal winning succulent specialist based in Pembrokeshire, Wales. So Rosie's mum is the grower and she does all the computer-based things, so photography, marketing, product creation, accounting, customer service. So Rosie and her mum sell their plants in person via their nursery. They also sell online via their own website. They sell on Amazon, they sell on eBay, Etsy, wholesale. They attend plant fairs. So as you can probably gather, there's like a lot going on with their business. I think Rosie is the first person I've spoken to who sells plants, so that in itself was really interesting. I didn't know much about succulents. I know a lot more now. And yet this is just a really great conversation about a family business and who does what and how their business has changed and grown in the past 4 years. It's actually a really interesting, fascinating conversation, and really looking forward to you hearing what Rosie has to say. She also mentions at the end of the episode, or towards the end, her Facebook group and how she's using that to help sell more products. And so for any of you with existing customers or thinking of starting a Facebook group for your business, I think you're going to find that really useful too. So that is enough from me, and I would now love to introduce you to Rosie. So hi Rosie, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. I'm very excited. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Can you please start by giving an introduction to yourself, your business, and what you sell?
So I'm 50% of a business called Corseside Nursery, where we grow and sell succulents, which are a specific type of plant. My mum's the grower, and I do all things computer-based, really. I am getting my hands dirty now, and I'm learning about the plants, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, I'm the multi-hat of, the business, the photos, the putting things online, the customers, the emails, the computer, essentially.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And so it's obviously a family business. So how long have you been involved with the business, Rosie?
It was just at the beginning of 2020. So yeah, it's strange. My mum has grown and sold plants ever since I can remember. We live on a little farm in the middle of nowhere, and that's how she's in her living. And for quite a long time, I was living at my mum's. And until then, I was a self-employed photographer, just a photographer. So wedding photography, family photos, that kind of thing. And my mum sold locally at the markets. We've got a local market that's every weekend, or she'd go to plant sales, just in person. She would, we would sometimes get customers, but we have a very bumpy lane, so it's a very brave customer that actually comes to the nursery. And mum she had mentioned a few times about trialing out selling plants online. And strangely enough, at the end of 2019, we did just set up a little eBay page, and I put a few things on there. And that it was kind of set up. And then a few months later, coronavirus happened. And when we went into the first lockdown in that March, we were both kind of out of business, essentially, because all of my couples and clients were locked up at home. All of mum's customers were locked up at home, and we were locked up at home. So there wasn't really any opportunity to continue doing either of our businesses the way we had been. And so mum said, let's just go for it. Let's put a load of stuff online and see what happens. And she just said to me, if you sell something for me, we'll split the profit 50-50 and, take it from there. And because I'm a photographer, it was amazing to just kind of plow my skills into photographing here plants. And the succulents are so beautiful. They're so photogenic. And as with all kind of online sales, the photos are everything, really. So yeah, we started putting some things on eBay, and just very slowly sales started happening. I can remember coming running in. I was like, we sold a plant. And the first week or two, we were sending out just one box, and we were so happy about that. And I can remember a few weeks later, we were sending 4 boxes out one week. We're like, oh, it's that's submit. And I took photos, it's like, wow, we sold 4 things online. And we could just see that it really worked. So because I had nothing to do, I just kept plowing stuff on there. I finding more plants, putting them on. And it went crazy. It went through the roof. And very, very quickly, it was a full-time income for us both, really. We quickly then launched a website. So we went from eBay to our website. Then we went into Etsy, and more recently Amazon. And that's kind of how it started. And it's just gone from strength to strength, really. And I still do photography, and my mum has another little business. But this does provide a sole income for us both, really. So
that is amazing. And thank you for sharing all of that. And yeah, wow, what a change from selling a few plants in, markets and in a physical location to suddenly having all this success on multiple platforms. That's huge.
My mum couldn't believe the price that people pay for things online, because my mum, we laugh about it now, but she was selling things like £4 each, 3 for £10 at the market, and we get £9.99 plus postage online, no bat of an eye, and we were selling out of things. We had to put the price up, right, because the plants only grow so fast. And then it got to a certain point where we just weren't comfortable putting them any more expensive. It just didn't sit well with us. So then, we had to take a little break and grow the business to kind of keep up with the sales. But I just couldn't believe how much things sold, because I think in the current culture we have now with next day delivery, when people want something, they want it now. People are going to go straight onto Amazon. I want it now. I want it tomorrow. And that's that. Whereas in the past, people perhaps in the plant community, they would spend months and months going to plant sales, visiting this and that, looking out for, that plant that they might come across one day. Whereas now people just jump online, put the name in, and it's in their home, the following day. And I think that has a real impact then on the price that you can charge online.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I've got a few follow-up questions around that, if it's okay. But first, just to say, I think you're absolutely right. And that's why, coming back to what you were saying earlier about the photographs, that's why obviously photographs are so important, because I'll be honest, I have a garden, but I don't know that much about plants. And I have bought plants online.
Well, I didn't either. But
and I go purely by the photos.
Yeah.
There's no point showing me a photo of a packet of seeds. I need to see what this is going to look like as a small plant and a bigger plant. And I think that's so important. And actually I did notice when I was looking at your website, your photos are beautiful. They're so bright. And I had no idea that I had no idea that's what succulents were. I think I just didn't really know.
Yeah. And the beauty of selling online is that there's one particular plant that my mum used to sell in mass all through the spring and summer, because that's when it was in flower. And she said she'd take it to the market in flower and she'd sell out. But any other time of the year, they don't look very interested in those plants. So they don't really sell. Whereas on Amazon, you're listing the money shot, the photo of the plant in flower, and you list that all year round. Obviously, people know they don't flower all year round. But you can sell for much longer than what you can in person.
I didn't think of that. That makes so much sense. And does your mum now have to grow more plants to keep up with the demand?
Yeah, a lot more. We've got a new polytunnel going up this spring. So last year we did something completely out of our comfort zone, and we went to an RHS exhibition, which in the horticulture world is really kind of prestigious. And people kept coming up to us, like ask like other growers, like, oh, how big's your team and how many polytunnels have you got? And it's like literally it's just me and mum. That is it. We don't import any plants. It's all homegrown, which is a big, like a lot of companies like Aldi, for example, they import loads of plants from Portugal, where they've been grown in perfect conditions, and then they get home to the UK in their new house and they freak out because they're like, what is this cold, awful weather? Whereas our plants are like accustomed to the Welsh weather. So that's a real selling point for us, that they're grown in the UK and that they're used to it.
I didn't think about that. But yeah, that definitely is, because that is a thing with plants, isn't it? I remember buying a beautiful tree last year, well, a couple of years ago, and it died. And I'm convinced it died because I live in England. I'm almost certain.
It might have literally just spent like all of his young life living the dream in Spain, like in the sun. And then you brought it to cold and wet.
I'm so sure that's what happened. And how was there as well as like, in terms of getting things online, what about the like logistical side of the business? And was there much of a learning curve in terms of how to ship plants, for example? Because I'm sure it's not as easy as just putting them in a box.
Yeah, it was a big learning curve. My mum packs the plants to an extent, so she gets them in the box ready, and then when I come over, I put the labels on and do the second part of the shipment. But yeah, she was terrified sending them the first few times. But we're very lucky in that the type succulents as a plant, they're really robust. They've got really like fat leaves, and they thrive on drought. So if they got lost in the post for a couple of days, they're absolutely fine. Whereas I don't know, if you get like these kind of leafy house plants, they need to be like next day delivery, otherwise they're dead, Yeah. So we're quite lucky with that. But yeah, it's been a lot of trial and error. Recently we decided to try selling bigger plants, which we've never done before. And again, there was a real kind of stressful week about how they were going to arrive, but they arrived really well. But yeah, lots of trial and error.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because I'm sure it wasn't that long ago, and perhaps it was just pre-COVID, when buying plants online just wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I think we got really lucky. I honestly, I know it sounds awful, but the pandemic was really good for us as a business. It just kind of pushed us into a place where we'd never really considered before. And I think the pandemic also, it changed a lot of people's perceptions about ordering online, especially some of like the older community. So like my nan, for example, she's terrified of using her bank details on the computer. And I think the pandemic kind of forced people to do that. And then they did it and it was okay. And now they continued to do it. And yeah, I think our customers they are a lot of older customers, although I think succulents is very trendy, and I know a lot of people my age getting into them. It's certainly not in like the 20-year-olds. It's definitely kind of 30 and up that are our sort of target customer.
That's really interesting. And I think as well, there probably was a time when people thought, plants couldn't be sent in the post, it would have seemed impossible. So it's crazy when you think about it, sort of how much business you're doing now for something that's relatively new. I don't mean just for your business.
A little while back, my mum ordered some pasties online from Cornwall, like Cornish pasties, and they arrived and they were in like this mad like refrigerate pack. I don't know. I think where there's a will, there's a way, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's good. So I'd really like to talk a little bit about how you balance sort of all the aspects of your business, because you mentioned you have a physical location, although I know you say not many people turn up there. But then, of course, you're selling online. I know you also sell wholesale. You're selling on a few different marketplaces. How do you strike the balance in terms of knowing how much to grow and knowing what you can sell where? Because you're in a lot of places now.
Yeah, it's been a real challenge, actually. And I think for me especially, because I've got two little ones, I've got two children, and I also run my other business. It's been the last few years have been actually really difficult, and kind of, but it's like I'm my own worst enemy. So I'm really ambitious, and I'm like, right, let's do this. And yeah, it's striking the balance and trying to get help in other areas. So like last year in the summer, which is our real peak season, and we just come off the back of this RHS exhibition, I was feeling so overwhelmed. And my husband suggested to me that we might get a cleaner. And I was horrified. I was like, oh no, like we can't get a cleaner. That's terrible. Like I don't know. I've always come from like a low income working family. And I thought, no, like really independent. But yeah, a few months later, we thought about it and we've gone in slow. And I've just like, it's just these little tiny chunks of your day that if you can delegate and you can afford to, it's made such a world of difference. And this lady, she comes in every other week and she cleans for 2 hours. And that's 2 hours that I've got elsewhere, that I can put back into the business. Another thing, which I was listening to one of your recent podcasts about spreadsheets, and I am such a spreadsheet freak. Honestly, I've got a spreadsheet for everything. And that's a big part of how I keep on top of things. Like I've got a spreadsheet that tells me when last year specific plants were in and out of stock. So then when my mum can ask me for that then, and she's like, right, last year we ran out of this plant in February, so I need to plant more of them in October, and that kind of thing. Yeah, spreadsheets and delegation. I don't know why I find it really hard asking for help. I always
think a lot of us do. I do think that's the thing with lots of business owners, actually. It's really hard. Although saying that, I don't know if you found that once you start, it gets easier.
Yeah. And so my youngest is just over 1 now. And like one of the reasons I can do this podcast today is because he's recently started nursery, and he's not old enough to qualify for free nursery. So that's something that, like, for me, that's asking for help. It's like, right, you know what, I'm going to do two days where I'm actually going to get time away from my child to work, because otherwise it's just every evening, baby goes to bed, that's when I work, and it's not really, you can't do that for foreseeable, because there's no time spare then to kind of breathe or bath or
yeah. That's hard. And it sounds like you've got a load to balance as well. So other than spreadsheets, and by the way, I'm really glad you liked the spreadsheet episode. I love that one as well. I thought it's amazing what you can do on a spreadsheet. How do you sort of balance sort of knowing how much, for your mum, how much she needs to grow and when, and, if you're selling wholesale as well and making sure you can keep up with fulfilling orders? How do you manage all of that? Because it sounds logistically quite challenging. I mean, it's a good problem to have, I know, but it also sounds quite challenging.
Yeah. Well, I think at the moment, my mum is literally just growing as much as she can. She's just growing everything to the maximum amount of terms of space and time. And then I sell it. So yeah, at the moment, I feel like that's just our strategy. Mum just grows as much as she can. And as soon as it's ready, my job is to get it sold online. So there's no real, don't grow too much, because we just know if we've got it, we'll be able to sell it. Because if we don't sell it online, we'll approach the wholesalers. But yeah, at the moment, we're toying with the idea of bringing on other staff. But it's tricky because there's 2 of us in the business. So I'm learning from my mum about when it is time to say enough is enough, if you know what I mean. Like I follow a lot of people who teach about business, and I'm always striving for more. Sometimes more is not always better. More is not always the answer. And it's just kind of figuring out what you're happy with and what makes you happy. And it's not always a bigger business and a more financially viable business. Sometimes it's things like outside of that,
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you're right. It depends on what you and your mum see as. I don't want to. When I say success, I mean that in a broad term. It's like what you're looking for, because absolutely some people want to grow huge business empires, and others are quite happy to reach a level where it, fulfills all that they need.
Yeah,
and that can change.
Yeah, I think I'm more than my mum in the sense that I want to go big and thing, but then I get myself into terrible, stressful situations, and it's been really wonderful kind of learning from my mum about kind of gratitude and grounding, and it's not always about the bigger and the better sort of thing. To go into the RHS last year was such a crazy experience. Our sales went through the roof after that because we got exposure at the show, and it's like, right, what are we going to do next year? And then it's like, whoa, this is taking up so much of our life. We are going to do it again. I think we're planning to do it again next year. But yeah, this year we decided to just have a year of kind of consolidation and grounding.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like there is a temptation, isn't there, to next year has to be bigger and better than the one before. But I actually think it's okay just to stay on an even keel for a while.
Yeah. And my whole life well, not my whole life, my recent life, the last few years has been very busy. I recently got married 2 years ago, had another baby, and it's like balancing that as well. It's because it's not all about the business. But it's like I said to my mum, it's so hard because you can just see the potential. You can I can see that if we did this, da 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 da. But yeah, it's just getting it all in line to make sure you're ready to kind of grow with it. Yeah, I do think if we did want to expand, that we'd need to expand our team, and that's a really big deal for a little business, kind of going into being actual employers of other people.
Yeah, definitely. That seems like a huge step. I mean, that's different from employing, freelancers or contractors to do the odd bit of work, isn't it? That's like something else entirely.
Mm.
Oh, well, good luck with whatever you do decide to do. Yeah, maybe we'll have to check in like a year or something and see where you're at. I think that would actually be really interesting.
Yeah, Amazon is my kind of target for this year, because we are on Amazon, but I don't find it quite as user friendly as the other selling platforms. So it's been quite a big learning curve. But the little amount that we have on there is selling really well, and there's actually not a lot of competition on Amazon for what we sell. Whereas on eBay and Etsy, there is quite a bit of competition, which is it, because there's this one plant we sell loads of, and I went to look it up on Amazon the other day to see kind of what prices people would charge. It's not even on there. Like, nobody's selling it. So I thought, oh, right, well, we better do something about that.
Well, that's really exciting, and it definitely puts you in a really good position as well. And I'm pleased you brought this up, because I was going to ask you about Amazon, because obviously I've seen that you're on there, and that's something that I'm particularly interested in. So apart from not being the most user-friendly platform, which I think lots of people listening will know, and have first-hand experience of, how have you found that first year of being on there?
It's been good. I've struggled with the photography element, because, like you say, you've been on our website. You can see the photos are a big part of our kind of marketing. And with Amazon, you need to have that blank white background image with the product on. So that's put a little bit of a spanner in the works, because I can't use my catalogue of photos that I have for everywhere else. So everything has to be rephotographed to put on there. So I'm kind of just working my way through that. It's not bad, because I've bought this box, like a white box. You put the product in, and once I've got it set up, it's just click and next sort of thing. It's just getting the time. But it seems great, good. It's just there's potential there. There's a lot of potential, and we're not really on there enough at the moment to see really how it compares. Because we've just been putting a few things on there, whereas our whole kind of catalogue is on the other 3 platforms already.
Yeah, and I think that's probably makes sense, though, because as you found out, Amazon isn't always the easiest of platforms. So I think I'd always recommend starting small rather than putting your whole catalogue on there, because it's time consuming as well. It's nowhere near as simple as putting something on eBay, which I think most of us could do in 10, 15 minutes. It's just not that, is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to find some kind of software where I could put our whole inventory, and it will manage it across the other all sites. I think I found one before, but it just didn't quite work, because if my mum says, like, we're doing the order, she said, oh, this plant's looking a bit tired, let's pull that one offline. At the moment, I log into the website and I take it off the website. Then I go into eBay, then I go into Etsy, then I go into Amazon. And I think, I don't know if you know of any, but I would love to be able to find some kind of software where you just go, right, we've got 50 of these, and just kind of work together.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I think that makes sense, because it is hard to manage all of the different platforms, and obviously all of them are different as well in terms of what's required and SEO. And just out of interest, because I think this would be useful for people listening, is which of the platforms that you're on, other than your own website, because obviously all website builders are different, have you found the easiest in terms of just getting set up and being able to get your catalogue on there, for example?
I think Etsy is by far the most user-friendly. It's not always the most kind of the best, depending on your product, because Etsy tends to lend itself more to handmade and bespoke kind of things. But yeah, I find Etsy so easy to use. I wish my website was as easy as Etsy to use. And it looks pretty when you go in there. You've got your shop front and stuff. So I do have a shop on eBay, but it doesn't look so well. And I think eBay are doing a lot of work at the moment, because I've seen lots of changes. But it's nowhere near. Yeah, I think Etsy's really. I know a lot of businesses that just use Etsy. They don't have a website. They just have. Well, they have a website, but it just links over to Etsy to do the selling part. The fees are quite a little bit more on there, but their marketing is incredible. Our sales on Etsy are way higher than our sales on eBay. Without doing anything differently, they seem to be able to market much better.
Oh, that's really interesting. And how about, if you don't mind me asking, how about Amazon versus eBay in terms of versus Etsy in terms of, not in terms of usability, because we all know Amazon's rubbish to use, but in terms of visibility and sort of the amount of traffic you get? Do you see a difference?
Yeah, I think at the moment I'm not really in a position to compare the two, just because we've only got a small amount of stuff on Amazon, but I'm seeing really good results, so I think once we get the full catalogue on, you'll be able to see properly. But I think it will be better, because there's very little competition on Amazon, and I think I know a lot more people shop on Amazon than Etsy. So I do think once I get my act together and put everything on there, I think it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, I think you've definitely got a lot of potential on Amazon, because as you say, there isn't a lot on there. And actually, you were one of the first people that I came across that was even selling succulents on Amazon. There've been people selling fresh flowers and bouquets and things for a long time. But in terms of succulents, I don't think there are many people on there, which is always a really good position to be in, because more will come. Of course there will, but being there at the beginning really, really helps.
Yeah, and as an actual kind of industry of businesses, there aren't that many growers of succulents, really. I think I know of about 10 companies in the UK that grow here, and all do quite well with it. A lot of other companies import things from over the border, but they don't tend to just be succulent sellers. They're like, I don't know, homeware shops and other bits and bobs. So we're in a really fortunate market, really, where there's lots of opportunity. And it's just the most wonderful thing, where the cost to make our product is so small, other than obviously time. But yeah, we are growing our product. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Our profit margins are crazy good, I think, compared to any other business that's actually selling a product anyway.
That's really interesting to hear, because usually I hear the opposite about margins. So that's really interesting. I never thought about that. In fact, you're the first person I've spoken to that sells plants. And I hadn't actually considered.
Getting a cramp.
Oh, don't worry at all.
I'm actually in my room, because we've got deliveries coming on downstairs.
Oh, no problem at all. I guess you guys are always busy with, things happening. What was I about to say? I think I was going to say, you're the first person I've spoken to who sells plants, and I find this just fascinating, because I didn't think about the fact that, of course, because you're growing from, I presume, seeds or cuttings, or I don't know how things are grown, if I'm very honest. I just throw a few bulbs in the garden. But yeah, I guess your overheads can be quite low, which is
So we do mostly from cuttings, where you take parts of bigger plants and put them into smaller pots. But a lot of people like to grow their own, and succulents are incredibly, they grow on their own just from like one leaf. So you could just take a load of leaves off a plant, and within a few months you've got like 10 new plants, for no real effort. They just kind of do it. So we've got a box that we sell, which is we call it the Manager's Special Propagation Pack, and it's a letterbox, kind of basic. It's a box of leaves. And when I told my mum that this is a plan, people pay for leaves online, she's like, stop being silly. We are not selling leaves. I was like, Mum, honest to God, we were going to sell a box of leaves. What do we charge for that? It's $14.99 for essentially a box of leaves. And it's to some people that sounds crazy, but to the people who get those leaves, that's like 20 new plants within a few weeks. And yeah, it's mad what people buy online.
That's so smart. That's such a clever thing to sell, because actually, as you were talking about succulents going from leaves, honestly, my brain was whirring, because I was like, I could pluck some leaves and then I could put them in. I was honestly going through that thought process. If I could grow things just by putting leaves in pots. So I can definitely see that
It's
that
a really
appeals to
beautiful
people.
little parcel, because we've got like a lovely stamp on there, and it's like tissue paper and like succulents. They're all different colours. They're purple and green and red and all different shapes. And you open it and it's like a little box of chocolates. You know, it's like, if that's your thing, for me, I feel like now I'm a plant person. So for me, that's like an amazing present.
I think that's such a nice gift, and I can totally see how that would sell really well.
Yeah, we've developed more now, and like selling the same things in different ways, for example. So we sell the leaves, but we also sell cuttings now, like larger ones. There's a certain type of succulent called an aeonium, and there's like hundreds of different types of aeoniums. So we've got like what we call I can't remember what I've called it now, but it's like a deluxe box of aeoniums where you've got like 20 different varieties, and they're all just cuttings. But to be able to actually get a whole collection of 20 plants, in the past, you just spent years and years visiting nurseries and looking for that. And now you can just go online and you just buy this box, and it comes and they're all labeled. And we have to use a plant passport, which is part of like UK legislation, but they're all like passported and legitimate. And yeah, within a few months, you've got this wonderful collection that, yeah, you've grown yourself. There's a real reward in that as well.
I think that's really interesting. And as you're talking, and obviously I haven't met your mum, but I'm thinking it sounds like you and your mum must really complement each other, because it sounds like your mum has so much knowledge about plants and growing. And then you've got all of these new ideas. That sounds like you two must be a really good team. I mean, I know things aren't obviously as simple as that, but yeah, I can definitely see how you would complement each other.
We work so well together. And we never ever planned to go into business together. We were just locked at home one day, you know. But yeah, I've always been so like we are literally like best friends. Me and my mum are very fortunate. We've grown up together, you know. We had a wonderful childhood, and yeah, we're best friends. So we can talk. We can tell each other hard stuff, you know. If mum doesn't agree with something that I've planned to do, that we've got a wonderful way where she can just explain it, and we can agree not to agree or not, but it's not a problem. You know, we can share what we feel honestly. And I think, I mean, I've never been in business with anyone else, so I can't really compare it, but it's wonderful to be able to talk openly and honestly. And yeah, you just know that they're going to take what you said seriously, whether or not they agree or not.
Yeah, but it sounds like you really complement each other, and also that your roles seem pretty defined as well, which I think is also like I've spoken to other people before who've worked with friends or family, and something they've spoken about is it can be hard to have a line between, okay, now we're colleagues, but we're also friends or family, and also I do this and you do that, and you know, all of those kinds of things. But it sounds like, you know, you guys have got that worked out really well.
Yeah, it's really great. I send, like, I've got a wholesale brochure. I was looking at it the other day, and it's like introducing us, and it's literally just like two completely different skill sets coming together. Because like my mum's okay on the computer, but she doesn't enjoy using the computer. And I do like the great outdoors. I love that. So, but I enjoy sitting on my desk and designing and stuff and editing photos and sending emails. Like I do enjoy that. So like, I know my husband, that's his like worst nightmare. He's like a real hands-on. He likes to be doing stuff, you know. But I am getting involved with the plants, and I'm learning a lot. I learn a lot through creating the listings online, because obviously you need to write about the plants, so you kind of need to learn about them. And yeah, all the names, that's been a real learning curve, but I can name all of them now by sight very easily.
Well, that's amazing. And I'm just really struck by that, like how much you're probably teaching each other, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, so I've been pushing my mum into the realms of video at the minute. So we've got a Facebook group which I set up, well, I can't remember now, it was probably about 2 years ago. But I said to mum, it's really good to have a group on Facebook where our customers can, like, you know, kind of interact with us and each other. And she was like, oh, I don't know about this. And we do videos in there now. And she was terrified. Well, not terrified, but it just wasn't her thing. Whereas now she's great. Just point the camera at her and she's happy to go with it. The Facebook group's been just really good for our business because we've got to know so many of our customers, and we've got lots of like regular loyal customers. And it's really wonderful to be able to talk to them, and they share pictures of their plants, and it's a really lovely community in there. I mean, we've got people in there who are not customers. It's like a group for people who grow succulents, essentially.
That's really interesting because I don't know of many product businesses who have a Facebook group. So yeah, talk a little bit about how you use the group and also how you encourage people to join as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I encourage people to join a lot of the sale point. We've got like automated emails that go out. So when people make a new order, they'll get a kind of series of emails. I feel like a few people think that it's actually me emailing them because I write them very personally. And we get like people often reply, letting me know how they plant, and which is lovely. So we invite them at that point. We have a Facebook page, which we've got lots of followers on. So we kind of encourage people from there. But we also have a flyer that goes into all of our parcels, and it's the number one thing on the front because, we've got, I think there's like 1,600 people in the group now. And if we've launched 2 new products in the last few months, I put it in there first because they're our kind of VIP customers, and it goes out to a newsletter cohort as well. And we get instant sales because people trust us. They know that what we sell is a good product. They know who sells it, which I think is really important. Not everyone's confident to kind of be a personality behind the brand. But I think people really relate to it. Really appreciate it, that it's a small business. It's just a mum and her daughter selling plants, and like they really like it and support it, which is nice.
That's really nice. And it's really good you've built up that community. And I guess it's also a way that people can share, like you say, share photos of their plants, which must be helpful for, encouraging sales as well. I know that's probably not an aim, but that's really good. And do you get a lot of interaction from your customers as well?
Yeah, loads. I get the Facebook group, especially. That's where we get most interaction. But I've created units in there, which like guides that you could do with Facebook groups. And because succulent care throughout the year varies a lot, the way you care for succulents in the winter in the UK is very different to the summer. So I tried to put blog posts and videos and YouTube links and stuff, and then I create little guides. I think a lot of our customers are quite beginners, really, when they come to us. I think I take for granted the knowledge that my mum gives me because I can just ask her anything. But most people don't have like a professional grower that they live with or, nearby. So it's nice that they can feel they can do that for us, with us.
Yeah, and that's really smart as well, like creating content around how to use, when I say products, I know they're plants, but how to use your products and how to get the best of them and how to care for them. I'm just really hoping that everyone's getting some inspiration from this, because I think that's really smart in terms of helping people, use their plants and enjoy them, but also providing like really useful information as well, which, as you said, is probably one of the reasons they'll come back to you.
Yeah. Another big kind of one of our selling points is that our business is really big on recycling. This has come from my mum. She's such a womble. Like growing up, if somebody didn't want something, they'd give it to my mum because they knew she'd have a big shed and she'd use it. But my mum's garden is full of stuff, random stuff planted up with succulents or other plants, like handbags and tires and wellies and all of that kind of stuff. So throughout the year, we create things like that. Like I did a little, like you get these potpourri, I can't really say that you put on the counter, and it's a box with holes in, essentially. But I like glued it in a funny way and put loads of stuff in it and put it online, and that just got so much interaction. But of course, it's got our business logo in the corner, and I think that does wonders for our. Yeah, I've been trying to get on Pinterest. That's another one. I've got a lot of people who sell products say Pinterest is really good for people who are looking for ideas, and then it links through to your website. But yeah, it's hard to find the time to do all of that. But
yeah, and apparently TikTok as well, especially if you're creating videos. Apparently TikTok's amazing. Yeah. But the thing is, as you say, you could spend all of your time just creating content or just uploading products to catalogue. There's always something to be doing, isn't there? There's always a new, whether it's a marketplace or social media platform. So I think, yeah, you do have to think carefully about where you invest your time, especially when it is just the two of you.
Yeah, if I've got some kind of content, so like at what's the term, in autumn, my mum had loads of pumpkins and she did this succulent display with the pumpkins, and I thought, right, took photos of it and we did a little video, and then I kind of go through the tick boxes. Have I put it on the Facebook page? Have I put it in the Facebook group? Are you okay? I put it on Pinterest, then I put it on Instagram, then I put it on YouTube, and it's like I feel like this is a spreadsheet for that. And maybe it'd be like, just because, and I wrote a blog. We've got a blog on the website as well. So it's just like one set of photos you can utilize in so many ways. And yeah, it's just trying to get the most out of each bit of content, isn't it? Rather than keep creating new stuff.
Yeah, and actually that's one of my goals for this year, is to repurpose things and try and get as much mileage out of like one podcast episode, for example, as possible. Because I think like content for most of us could be a full-time job if we let it. Yeah.
And I think, I'm not sure, but I think a lot of people in that role are in it because you enjoy it as well. So it's almost like, I enjoy making this. I enjoy it. But yeah, you at some point you have to be like, right, no, now I need to do the other stuff. Yeah, it's hard to draw lines, isn't it? And I think I've got a lot of work to do in that respect, kind of allocating time blocks to things and just, sticking to that. That's probably something I should do.
Oh, it all sounds good. Thank you so much for all you shared, Rosie. And I'm going to link to your website in the show notes for this episode, and also to your socials, maybe even your Facebook group if you wanted to share that. We might have some succulent lovers that are listening. But final question, what is your number one piece of advice for other product creators?
I have thought about this, and I honestly, I think the best bit of advice I can give is to just go for it. Just do it, whatever it is that you're thinking about doing, just do it. And there's a quote, I think it was Winston Churchill, saying that perfection is the enemy of progress. And like, we were trying to start a YouTube channel, for example. In my head, I wanted it to be this perfect intro, this perfect this perfect that. And in reality, it just wasn't going to be that for a very, very long time. So we thought, do you know what? Let's just chuck some videos on. And I had some woman comment, I did a video about leaf propagation, and she said, I've just ordered on the website. Thank you. And it's not a great video. It's just my phone camera in the conservatory, doing my best. But yeah, I think just go for it. I think that's the best bit of advice I can give. Obviously, you can have a strategy and all of this, but if you're umming and ahhing about something, just give it a go. And you can always redo it. You can always make it better in the future. But unless you start, it's never going to be anything, is it? You feel like you just got to start.
Oh, thank you. I really like that advice. I really love that quote as well. That's one of my favourites, because I'm completely with you that I would much rather do something than think about doing it for an hour and a half. If you see what I mean. I think there's something, I mean, obviously I'm not saying you shouldn't think about things, but I don't think you should think too much about whether you should do things, if you see what I mean.
And with my photography business, it's always been hard not comparing myself to other people, because when I started, I wasn't that great. I felt like I had certain skills, but then I'd see other people's photographs and think, well, I'm not that good. I'm not as good as them. So should I be doing it at all? But yeah, the reality is there's always going to be somebody doing it better than you. There's always going to be somebody further along the line than you, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it as well. And it just means that you're just not in the same place,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely something to be said for like not comparing yourself to everyone else around you, which is easier said than done. I totally know, because very few of us are doing something where there's no competition at all.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you've got to keep an eye on the competition, and you want to keep an eye on what's popular, what's trending, but then try not to compare. It's very hard.
It's a hard line to draw, actually, a hard balance. Oh, well, thank you so much, Rosie.
No problem. It's been, I've never done a podcast before, so it's been a great experience.
You've done brilliantly. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode. Do remember that you can get the full back catalogue and lots of free resources on my website, vickyweinberg.com. Please do remember to rate and review this episode if you've enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend who you think might find it useful. Thank you again, and see you next week. If you've been inspired to start a podcast in 2024, I really recommend my podcast host, Captivate. Captivate were my top pick when I started podcasting 4 years ago because of how easy it was for a complete novice like me to get started. I've stuck with them for the last 4 years because Captivate is still really simple to use. They keep adding great new features like the ability to share ads like these, and they've just been really reliable. So when you're ready to start your own podcast, you can use the link in the show notes and get a free 7-day trial with Captivate.